Boom. Thank you for watching The Political Vigilante. My name is Graham Elwood. What am I doing? I'm giving you the news the way they will not give it to you on the corporate media, right? So the prison population. This is the prison population in the United States. The U.S. locks up more people per capita than any other nation at a staggering rate of 698 per 100,000. For every 100,000 people, 698 of them, are locked up. Why? This prisonpolicy.org organization, where and why 2.3 million people are confined nationwide. Local jails, state prisons, federal prisons. Then you've got youth, right? Look, it's unbelievable. Weapons, other drugs, drug possession. How much of this is weed, man? How many people are locked up for a plant? Theft, car theft, burglary, property, drugs, weapons charges, property, drug, public order. Look at the amount of property. It's because people don't have jobs. That's why they steal stuff. And then there's a drug, because we've criminalized weed and whatever else. There's an opioid epidemic, which people within the pharmaceutical companies, the industry, they're doing it. They're profiting from it, right? Now this is how many people in the local jails. Over 540,000 people are locked up who haven't even been convicted. Why? They're detained in local jails because they can't afford to pay the bail. So if you don't think this is about sticking it to poor people again, we don't give them jobs, we don't give them health care, and then they commit a crime and the legal system, you're screwed if you're poor. You are screwed. I had to get a restraining order against my violent drug-using ex-girlfriend. And it cost me a lot of money. Who created this? I think it's our guy Joe Biden. But they don't want you to know that. They want you to know this. Biden expands lead over rivals in 22 U.S. presidential nominations despite lack of support from millennials. He doesn't need millennials. They don't want you to know that there's 2.3 million people in prison, largely because of the 1994 crime bill that he authored, and it was signed by President Clinton. But here's what the polls are telling us. Biden leads Trump by double digits among Pennsylvania voters. Oh, poll after poll, Biden's in the lead just because the corporate media is lying to you. Because you know what happens? Let me tell you something, folks. Private prisons also make a lot of money from this. They make a lot of money. Drugs, we got to keep drugs illegal, right? If you took away drug offenses, if we looked at drug addiction, all drug addiction, not just weed, as a health issue rather than a criminal issue, if that's how we treated addiction, it's awful that someone's a drug addict. They commit violent crimes while under the influence, well, then you charge them for those violent crimes. But the possession of drugs, drug possession, other drugs, look at this. The private prison industry owns the companies that pay for these polls. Look at this one, The Hill. Oh, he's in the lead now. He's crushing Bernie Sanders, the Harris X poll. Buttigieg, Warren, Harris, O'Rourke, Booker, no Tulsi Gabbard in there. A bunch of centrists, a fake progressive. Warren is a fake progressive. Ex-CIA officer, bailed out Steve Mnuchin, protected pedophile priests, has the number 2 donations from the oil lobby, sell out. He's the only real progressive here, right there. But suddenly they're making him the leader. You want to know why they're talking about this? Because they just want you to remember how great it was under the Obama years. That's all they're doing. Wasn't Obama so much better? He was so presidential. We're getting Obama out there being all nice and presidential and all of his charming He's a highly educated man. He's very charming. He's very articulate. He doesn't write offensive tweets. He's never grabbed anybody by the pussy. He doesn't say shithole country. He doesn't say any of those things. Remember how great it was under Obama? Anyone, and Trump just make Trump worse and worse and worse. Trump's going to come after Roe v. Wade, so we just need whoever's the front. We just got to just get anyone in there. That's why Alyssa Milano and George Takei say, just stop criticizing. Just let anyone. Because they want you to think that just the Democrats will fix it. The Democrats. They don't want you to remember this.
You must take back the streets. And you take back the streets by more cops, more prisons. I hope this crime bill, when it passes, the Biden-Hatch crime bill, as it becomes law, God willing, I hope that we will have ended, once and for all, this notion that somehow Democrats are weak on crime. The consensus is A, we must take back the streets. It doesn't matter whether or not the person that is accosting your son or daughter or my son or daughter, my wife, your husband, my mother, your parents. It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I don't want to ask, what made them do this? They must be taken off the street. We all agree on that. Now we can find some fringe folks and left-wingers in my party who say, nah, that's not what we should do. Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without any conscience developing, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now.
Don't give them schools, Joe. Don't give them education. Don't give them hope. Don't give them Medicare for all back then. Clinton could have done all this. You know, we could be living in a utopia and we could be talking about how great the Democrats were. It's an extension of FDR. Don't give them that, Joe. Just lock them up. Lock them up, baby.
And Madam President, we have predators on our streets. They are beyond the pale, many of those people. Beyond the pale. I don't care why someone is a malefactor in society. We have an obligation.
You don't care because you're a rich, privileged white guy. You could have been giving people schools and jobs and all this stuff 20, 30 years ago. You've been in public office since the 70s, Joe. You could have been putting them to work on a Green New Deal back in the 90s when they first really started talking about climate change. They called it global warming back then. Thanks, Joe. Good work.
To cordon them off from the rest of society, try to help them, try to change their behavior, but they are in jail.
Fringe left.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in strong opposition to this so-called crime prevention bill. Mr. Speaker, let us be honest, this is not a crime prevention bill. This is a punishment bill, a retribution bill, a vengeance bill. All over the industrialized world now, countries are saying, let us put an end to state murder, let us stop capital punishment. But here what we're talking about is more and more capital punishment. What we're discussing now is an issue where some of our friends are saying we're not getting tough enough on the criminals. But my friends, we have the highest percentage of people in America in jail per capita of any industrialized nation on earth. We've beaten South Africa. We've beaten the Soviet Union. What do we have to do? Put half the country behind bars?
That's 1994. This bill made it worse. This is Bernie Sanders, and I got to be honest with you, I didn't know who he was back in the 90s. I only learned about him in 2015. I'll be real honest with you, because they did a really good job of just keeping him hidden. Keep him up in Vermont. Shh, 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 quiet old man. But he won't go away. And he's been saying the same stuff for 20, 30 years. I think maybe it's time we listen.
Mr. Speaker, instead of talking about punishment and vengeance, let us have the courage to talk about the real issue. How do we get to the root causes of crime? How do we stop crime? And Mr. Speaker, I've got a problem. I've got a problem with a president and a Congress which allows 5 million children to go hungry, 2 million people to sleep out on the streets, cities to become breeding grounds for drugs and violence. And they say, we're getting tough on crime. If you want to get tough on crime, let's deal with the causes of crime. Let's demand that every man, woman, and child in this country have a decent opportunity and a decent standard of living. Let's not keep putting poor people into jail and disproportionately punishing blacks.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
Yeah, okay. Time's expired. Get him out. There it is, guys. Back in 1994, 25 years ago, saying the same stuff. Who was the president? Was it Reagan? Was it George H.W. Bush? No, that was when Bill Clinton was in his first term. That's why I didn't vote for Bill Clinton in 96. I voted for a third-party candidate. I voted for the Libertarian. Not that I'm some big Libertarian, but I was just like, no way. And I remember my liberal friends saying, God, what if Bob Dole wins? I was like, if Bill Clinton can't beat Bob Dole, if a sitting president can't beat Bob Dole. I remember older lefty friends of mine, you know, who were like in their 50s back in the 90s, were like, Bill Clinton's a Republican. Don't let them trick you, man. They're trying to trick us. They're trying to just don't fall for these bullshit polls. Look at this. Oh, the big winner. The guy that jailed people, that just wants to get predators off the streets. And I don't care if they had a tough childhood. They're going to knock my mom in the head with a pipe. Oh, fuck off. I'm so sick of these assholes. I got no more patience for these pieces of shit. They just keep lining them up. Diversity. Diversity. Shut up. Oh, but he'd be the first Jewish president. Shut up, hippie. But isn't that part of your diversity, one big first Jewish? I mean, I'm not voting for Bernie because he'll be the first Jewish president. I'm voting for him for his policies. The fact that he would then also be the first Jewish president, I go, okay, that's cool. But I won't care if he's the first Jewish president if he bails on Medicare for all and free college tuition and all this other stuff. We could have had this back in the 90s. That's what this showed us. Every time Democrats are in power, they can give us all the things we want and they don't. Obama had 8 years and he didn't do it. So I'm sorry. I will not go for the any blue will do. Just beat Trump, just beat Trump. Because if this idiot wins, or any of these other people win, other than Bernie or Tulsi or Mike Gravel, who they won't even mention, they have to put him here. It kills them that they have to put him in here. And they give him a bullshit number. Yeah, who'd they poll? Rich white people? Of rich white people who call themselves Democrats, he's winning. Millennials who don't participate in these polls because they don't have home phones like old people do, they won't even put Gravel or Tulsi on this. You see that, right? If they're all about diversity, they'd put Tulsi in here. Another woman of color who's a combat vet. No. She's a little too anti-war. We can get her off that list. Don't fall for it. I'm not. You're not. That's why you get your news here. Support the show. Patreon.com/Graham Elwood. You get bonus content for as little as $5 a month. Rockfin.com/Graham Elwood. Progressive Comedy Tour. We're going to be in the East Coast June 12th through the 19th. Tour dates at GrahamElwood.com. Thanks for watching.